In this video, I dissect the nightmare of Eraserhead and I do something truly perverse. I transform it into this coffee table. You might think a table sounds ridiculous, but to understand the table, we first need to understand the film. Take for example the chicken scene. Should be a banal dinner scene, but when the chicken is cut, it bleeds. It's disgusting, but the point is much deeper. Something that we try very hard not to think about suddenly insists on being seen. Because when you cook an animal, of course, something very violent happened before. Imagine if you had to do that to an animal yourself, it's very likely that you'd become a vegetarian. And that's why we think of this violence like it happened somewhere else in another reality. And what does Lynch do? He leaks this violence back into our pristine dinner scene. You know, people say the film is about the anxiety of becoming a father. Will I be good enough, responsible enough, mature enough? But I think this reading is almost too comfortable. It's not just anxiety, it's as if fatherhood is a kind of mistaken reality itself. Something that should not exist, exists. Just look at the world Lynch constructs. Everything that should be hidden leaks. And the whole world is built from that leakage. Like, of course, the baby. Consider it carefully here. It's not simply born, it's leaked into existence. In the diaper scene, when Henry cuts open the baby's diaper, he's not merely changing a child, he's cutting into the hidden reality itself. What we see is not a real organism, but something reminiscent of leaked organs put in a bag. Now look at the industrial landscape. It feels less like a background and more like anatomy, like a giant body that breaks down. Everything leaks, drips and smokes. What should stay inside comes out in fragments. So I thought, what if an object could follow the same logic? I tried to make a table that's leaked, literally through a sewage pipe. I built a previous version that was smooth and complete, but in Eraserhead nothing is whole. The table cannot appear as a single solid object. It must leak into being, piece by piece. So what I've done so far is make a mold for the table pieces by cutting holes into several sheets of foam and then pouring fiber reinforced concrete into them. Also, while the concrete was still soft, I stuck in some straws so the concrete pieces end up with holes themselves. What you're seeing me do now is taking the pieces out of the mold and sanding the edges. And these fibers that stick out, you can just burn them off with a small torch. Once everything's cleaned up, I give the pieces a quick wash, and then it's time to start putting the table together. This is the top slab, and this is the second slab. Now I'm using threaded rods, washers and bolts to hold everything together. I run the rod through the second slab and start threading the concrete pieces onto it, one by one. You get the idea. Once everything is in place, I compress the whole thing by tightening a bolt on the other side with a washer. And yes, sorry for this wrench. And then I basically repeat the same process for 2 more rods and the concrete pieces are threaded through them. At this point I start rotating the pieces slightly just to make them feel a bit more random, like the form is kind of assembling itself. Once I'm more or less happy with how it looks, I tighten everything down. Next, I trim the excess length of the rods with an angle grinder. I also use it to make these cuts in the top slab. The idea is to push that assembled from fragments type of look a bit further. Now that nothing is sticking out, I can finally flip the table on its legs. The top slab has these recesses I made with a spoon while the concrete was still soft, and the bolts and washers from the second slab are supposed to sit inside those. So here I'm taking a bit of time to really adjust the position. It has to look just random enough, because once it's fixed, there's no going back, it has to sit just right. Once I'm more or less happy with the position, I start marking it with a pencil, just a few reference lines so I don't lose it later. Then I mix up some glue, spread it inside the reference lines, and finally I set the top in place. At the end I glue these hollow pieces to the bottom of the legs to hide the rods that stick out. But there's a bit of a problem here which I kind of expected, the legs aren't exactly the same height. So I measured the difference using a level and a caliper, and then cast 2 additional bottom pieces to even everything out. I tightened the bolts and that's basically it. I decided not to sew this table so that it can get dirty with time. This is the so-called finished piece, at least for now. Here the table almost looks like a single object. I can show you the smoother table I made about a year ago. You can tell me which one makes more sense. I'll leave a link to the old table video in the description. Alright, thanks for watching.